That's what it is.
Well, look at the Cardings down the road from me.
That's exactly what he was just talking about.
Yeah.
One on one side and one on the
Yeah,
other.
exactly. And the right side.
Okay,
is
we're
so-
ready to go now, and we are on. Okay, I'd like to call to order this regular meeting of the Killingly Inland Wetlands and Watercourse Commission, and we'll start with a roll call.
Sandy Eggers.
Here.
Fred Bruleman.
Here.
Rodney Galton.
Here.
Karina Torrey. Here. Deborah Lamiat.
Here.
Okay, I think that's it, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it.
Yep. Now, do we have the minutes in here?
And I do have a question on one of the minutes.
Okay, what was your,
Minutes, see, just turn the first page.
oh, thank God you're at my right arm.
But that's all I can say is because I wasn't here. So I don't
That's
know if
true.
they're correct.
Okay, you said you did have a question on them.
Yep, so I wasn't here for the entirety of that meeting last month.
you were not.
So under motion number 3, there was some conditions for the Briarwood project. I just wanted to confirm them. So as they're written is a little confusing. What I have in the decision letter is what I think was the intention. I have not listened to the audio, so I'm asking you guys. So for the first one, do you guys see that on page
Yeah.
2? So on the first one, total amount of disturbance is strictly limited to 1,750 square feet.
I know it was very specific to an amount, so I would assume,
Well,
you-
we basically just gave preliminary approval.
conceptual
Okay,
type.
and that's what I thought. So going into the next part then, final design and calculations is to be submitted to the town engineer for review. Was that the intention? Or because the way it was read in the minutes was town engineers to provide full staff report, including design and calculations.
I thought that everything was supposed to come back and it was conceptual.
That's
Am I
correct.
wrong?
Everything was supposed to come back.
Okay, so
Everything.
before they were to move forward with the actual crossing, that disturbance, they have to come back.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And then the last part being applicant is to return to the Inland Wetlands and Watercourse Commission for final approval.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay,
yeah. So
Okay.
that's the conclusion,
okay,
and it was just a preliminary
okay.
review.
I just wanted to
It
confirm
was really
that.
more of a review, I would say, than an approval, if you want to look at it
Yeah,
that
just a
way.
conceptual review,
Yeah.
basically.
Okay. Well, the application, the motion was to approve with those conditions. So it's an approval, but it is conditional. So
I think that
they
the
ultimately
original-
have to, they won't actually have
think
to
that-
pay for a new application, but they have to come back
Yes.
here with the design
Yes.
and everything.
That's correct.
That's,
Yeah.
that's the way
Yes.
I'm reading it. Okay, I just wanted to make sure before I send out the letter.
The only thing now that comes to mind with this disturbance, additional disturbance of 1750,
Yep,
there was previous disturbance in that area.
yes.
With this disturbance, is that total over 5,000 square feet? Because that would have to go to Army Corps.
I don't believe it totals over 5,000.
Okay.
No. The 1750 was what was shown for the disturbance to fix the crossing, and the
Right.
additional is probably another 1,000, 1,200.
Okay.
If I had to.
It didn't dawn on me at the last meeting.
Yep. If there is an issue with it, we'll review it. We'll just double check
Okay.
it. The approval obviously stands. The approval's there. We're just gonna verify it. If there's additional steps the applicant has to take at a higher level, that's something that we'll let them know.
And if I recall, this really was just to reapprove their conceptual plans that ran out of time.
Right.
Yes, yeah, the original plans had an approval, and the
Yep.
10 years had
Yeah.
come and gone. So that's why you had a partial thing there. That particular area with that crossing, they started doing it,
Yep.
and then they changed focus.
Right.
I think even the contractors changed. So that was part of,
Oh, I think the owner's contract, everything.
yeah. So,
everything
okay, I
changed.
just wanted to clarify those items.
All right, do we have a motion with the clarification?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Motion's made and seconded to approve the minutes of the Monday, October 18th special meeting with the clarifications to the motion on the Briarwood property. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, citizens' participation. Did anything come in the mail? Because they can still email and do anything that way.
Not that I'm aware of.
Anybody here for anything other than an application? Okay, then we'll move right on to the unfinished business, and that is the review of an authorized agent application of, it's application 21-1534 of Clifford LaRose. Okay, fill us in.
Yeah, so I did have the surveyor come to join us for the meeting to go through it. We did get a clarification based off some of the comments that were made last month.
Yep.
And an updated plan. The other items that we received was a septic system nitrogen analysis, which gave us a diluted nitrogen concentration of 11. And I have that for you guys. And I think there is some hard copies of the plan if you guys would like. And for Deb, I'm going to put it up on the screen for you.
Okay.
Easier to look at. For record, Paul Deloder, PC Survey Associates.
Thank you.
So what you have before you is it's a free split lot. It's submitted to the town to demonstrate that we could meet the required setbacks that the regulations for the Wetlands Commission require.
Paul, if you could just make sure your mic's on.
Is this on?
No, just, there you go.
Okay. As I was saying, the setbacks for septic system in your regulations is 100 feet, which we need. Setback for structures is 50 feet. I have a proposed house on there that's 60 feet. If they put a deck or patio on the back, I can maintain 55 feet off the wetlands. We've got a 25-foot minimum area adjacent to the wetlands of undisturbed area. And the original print, I had shown a full foundation house with a foundation drain extending out into that 25-foot no disturbance area due to the grade. We've changed that to a raised ranch where, I mean, you can get to the outfall elevation closer to the edge. It'll be more at the edge of the limit of disturbance, if they even need one at all. It's very gravelly soils in there, so they may not even need a foundation drain. I think those were the areas of the concern. I had Norm Tebow from Killingly Engineering do a nitrate renovation study to see what the septic system would be putting out as it reaches the wetland, and it came down to, I think it was 11, which is like one above drinking water, so it's pretty clean.
So on the.
We just look at this, and it's
I-
just so
I know.
not what we want to see or normally see.
That wetland area, just for the record, that wetland area looks like it was created through an excavation process. That entire area in there was all gravel. I don't know how long ago. I'm going to say it could have been 50 years ago. But it was excavated down to the water table in that area. So that was pretty much a man-made wetland to begin with. It's not a naturally occurring.
But nevertheless, it's
Extension of the
wetlands
brook.
at this point.
Yes, it is.
And
So on the staff end, I did submit a staff report and tried to highlight the regulations that we look at when we're talking about like the authorized agent, but as well as just normal application in terms of minimal separation distances. And this process, which it would be the putting something in front of you guys even after the authorized agent. Typically, that's done, I believe, through a petition request type item, and just going over the whole duly authorized agent process. How typically these types of applications in the past, just looking at past practice when we're talking about that minimum separation, that golden number being 100 feet. So the edge of the wetland to the septic system being 100 feet. Usually if there's anything more than that, we're not seeing any infringement on the other general separations, and the lot meets all the other metrics. It's not on top of conservation and whatnot. We would look as authorized agent. There would be other conditions in terms of like if we felt it was potentially a public interest, where we would say, okay, maybe this would be better left for the commission. But in this case, it met the separations, and the applicant looks like has modified the layout to actually increase that to prevent some of the concerns, in particular with the one outfall of the footing drain.
But basically, any old existing deed that they haven't done a split on, we can get this kind of,
Yeah, so when the regulations came in for either the town or the borough, and I don't know those dates exactly, I have them written in my office, a little
Long
cheat
ago.
sheet, in the 70s or the 60s, respectively. You have the ability to do what's called a first split or a free split, okay? Now, first splits or free splits don't come in front of any of the planning and zoning boards or anything like that. We don't have a formalized process in Killingly in our regulations for it. What we do ask, and which most of the surveyors do and engineers do, is they come to us as staff and we look at them and just make sure all items are addressed, because we don't want to create any kind of nonconformities. Now, there's a pre-existing nonconformity with the existing house. That's allowed. Cutting off the lot, doing this first time free split, does not increase that nonconformity. That nonconformity is there because it's a front setback
I was just going to say, I
for
thought
the
it was
existing
closer to
house.
the road than.
That is what it is. This house that's being proposed is conforming. You have the frontage that's required and all the setbacks. Those items, just to clarify for anyone watching or listening, are items that aren't necessarily part of the wetlands review. That's just all encompassing, because at staff, that's something that we look at. So for the wetlands, we look at all the other items that I mentioned previously. So because this is authorized agent, the original intention of staff was to approve with conditions. Those conditions being final approved engineered septic design be submitted to town staff prior to or with the zoning permit application. The way that practically works is before you can even get a building permit, you have to have NDDH approval anyways. NDDH has already issued I believe, conditional approval for this application, which is just requiring that design septic. And then providing outfall protection at the footing drain location. Because of that was written before the modification in this plan, but depending on flow, what we would see in the field, we might ask for that outflow protection, especially if we're inspecting this in the wetter months.
What do you think? I don't think there's anything else. It's just a shame that
Yeah.
it happens.
So the nitrogen levels are slightly higher than drinking water levels. What would be the impacts on the wetland at that point with elevated nitrogen levels?
Elevated by that little amount?
Yeah.
I would think it would be, I'm not the engineer, so I don't know if I can answer that question directly. But from what I've seen, when it rains, you get higher levels than that, because you're not going to go drinking the water out of your yard, you
Right.
know, so.
So I tried to get clarification on that too, because we don't have a set standard for that. That's usually something the health department
Right.
is mainly involved in and looking at. I did quickly look through a Connecticut deep Department of Environmental Protection, guidance for design of large-scale on-site wastewater renovation systems, and this is dated February 2006. And when I say this is at a glance, it was about a 500-page document. In the section talking about nitrogen, and this is for direct consumption. Health problems can occur when water that contains nitrates in excess of 10 micrograms per liter, and that we're talking about nitrogen, or NO3N, is consumed by infants either by direct ingestion as a result of its use for preparing baby formula or to a fetus for a pregnant woman. I have no basis to dispute that. I'm just reading what it says. That's direct ingestion. This would be going into potentially a medium that would further dilute. I mean, nitrate usually would lead to more plant growth, which could be good or bad for the wetland, depending on if it's starved at all for any kind of nitrate. But if given this information with an NDDH approval, if that information is conveyed to NDDH and they're still approving it based off of potable water and everything like that, I don't see that as something for us to dispute.
So my concern, does this wetland typically hold water?
20?
I believe so.
Okay.
This normally holds water.
I believe so. I do.
Yeah, because it's down to the ground, it's down to the groundwater table. So it dries up in, the very dry summer months, but this wasn't a typical year to examine that.
Because adding nitrogen into a water body, you typically get algal blooms. So, I mean, this could complete, I'm not saying that 11 is high.
Yeah, I just got a text from the engineer, and he said that typically 20 parts per million is acceptable level for aquatic life.
Okay. And that was who?
Norm
Tebow.
Tebow, Killingly Engineering.
Yeah, but we should make sure that's on the record, that the engineer provided that information.
Yeah, I did check with the town engineer, and he said he did not have a reference standard, although he knows that this is something that has been looked at in the past by you guys. But he said typically the health department runs the show on that.
I mean, I can get something in writing from him, I would think.
Yeah, I mean,
That's-
again, the concern is, I deal with this stuff all the time, in more sensitive areas than this. And you have to be very careful with algal blooms because it could change the entire characteristics of the wetland itself. That's all I'm saying. So if we increase the nitrogen, even by a little bit, I mean, it could have detrimental effects out here.
If that wetland is used like a vernal pool before it dries up, you're absolutely right. The algae bloom could change the ability for amphibians to use it.
I think, though, that, Jonathan, regardless of the outcome this evening, I think that it's become pretty clear we probably need some kind of reference material from the health department on how to handle these and what their feelings are. And I'm sure there's probably a lot more research out there than we're aware of.
Yeah, I can look into it. I did look a little bit at the formula that Norm used. There are sliding scales because it's very dependent on the substrate,
Right.
the material, he seemed to be fairly conservative with his numbering. I think he might have been able to get lower number if you said, perfect condition, which is, I think, within reason. But we can reach out to the health department. When we're talking about like the minimum separations, I can check with somebody at DEEP to see what metric, where does that come from? Because when they're talking about subsurface sewer, they have those hard numbers, right? And there has to be a reason,
There has to be.
right?
Right.
Now the
That's
health
what I mean.
department.
Wouldn't it be good to have that?
Yes.
Yeah.
available to us?
The health department does allow them to be closer than our review area of 100 feet. So I think they are normally, by the health department's metric, allowed to be within 25 feet.
I think getting something in writing from the engineer and to attest to the fact of the 20 parts, then right now there's really nothing we can do. I mean, other than to get a letter from the engineer.
Okay. So if what I would be looking for from you guys is just a motion to modify the approval to add that condition.
Because at this point, there is an agent approval standing, am I correct?
So
And that's what I'm wondering, how this is working. Is it modifying that, withdrawing it?
So I have not put the approval into the paper yet. So I can look to just add that approval if you guys would wish, and or add that condition to the existing two conditions I stated earlier. And I would issue the legal ad this week. Would probably it wouldn't be in the paper tomorrow; it'd be the next day to put the approval forward. I tried to put them as a batch, so there's other applications you'll see
Yeah.
later.
Yep, because I see you have the one for the cemetery. Is it far-fetched to get some information, since it wouldn't have to come back to us, it would be working with you anyhow? Is it too far-fetched to have you actually talk to the health department about this as well?
I can reach out to the health department. I talk to them fairly regularly.
That's what I mean.
So,
Don't you guys think that probably makes,
Yeah.
The more information we have with that.
I can just ask for the feedback and a little bit of a crash course in terms of the
and that way we're
nitrogen.
gonna have, you'll
Yep.
become the resource for that anyhow.
Yep, and
for us
I'll try to also run any of that information by Dave as well, just to make sure we're all on the same page.
Yeah, and to Fred's point, I mean, I look at this wetland and you have a pocket that is a couple feet lower than most of the rest of the wetland here. So that could very easily at some
It's
point.
an awfully long time.
Yeah, and that could be, characteristics of a vernal pool there. I mean, I'm not a scientist, but I mean, it very well could be.
We had submitted a report from Joe Thoreau, and I don't think he had mentioned, if it was, I think he would have mentioned that.
I did read that, but when I look at his flagging, I don't know if he looked at that entire back area, because his flagging stops unless you just stop locating.
No, I stopped, he flagged the wetlands on the entire property.
Okay.
Yeah.
I only delineated and located the ones that were in the area where we were concerned.
Yeah, he only shows up to, I think, flag 30, and
Yes.
Joe's report says 56.
Yep, because it says wetlands flag 1 through 56.
Well, we should get more information.
So I don't think that would be out of line to let the agent approval stand at this point, but with additional review by the staff and some input
Yep,
from
that's fine.
these other,
Right.
I'm always up for learning
these
new
other
things,
groups.
so.
Well, we don't know.
Yeah.
We really don't know, and this is a strange little lot.
Yep, not a problem.
So I would make the motion that the agent approval be modified to include a letter from the engineer stating the acceptable levels for the wetland, whatever that may be. And I don't know if we have to include the staff's
Discussion with the health
research,
department.
Yeah, as part of that modification as well.
It's not going to hurt. Okay, is there a second to that?
I'll second.
Okay, a motion's been made and seconded to leave standing the authorized agent application of application 21-1534 at 20 Halls Hill Road with the modifications already discussed. Any other discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Okay, then for new business, it's another agent approval.
No,
And I bet you were waiting to see if
So this application came in as a full application.
Okay.
So, but you guys do have the ability to delegate. So if
Okay.
upon review, you want to delegate it as an agent approval, then
Okay.
that is fine. And I think we have someone here for that, right, Norm? Or, I mean, Greg, are you here for St. Joseph's? Okay.
Okay, so it would be application 21-1536 of St. Joseph's Roman Catholic Church for construction of a one-way entrance drive from Upper Maple Street at 350 Hartford Pike.
Yep. So I know the Killing Engineering has already met with the town engineer to review the location. And I believe the location was confirmed by both parties to be the ideal location for this drive. It's pretty simple in the regards of like staff review. It's a driveway. I don't think they're proposing any new drainage, no new structures other than passage. So, but I'll let Greg take it from here.
All right, correct. For the record, Greg Laud from Killingly Engineering, with a place of business at 114 Westcott Road in Danielson. I have an overall plan that I'm going to just pass out to you as well. It'll give you a little bit more bearings of where things are taking place.
Oh, no problem.
So basically, we're dealing with St. Joseph's Roman Catholic Church over in Dayville on Route 101. It has frontage on Upper Maple Street as well. Right now, it has been closed for quite some time, and it has been up for sale, and there is a sale pending for the buildings, the church building, the hall, and the parsonage. So what they're doing is they're going to be selling that off and keeping ownership of the cemetery, which is in the back. The cemetery was approved for expansion by the town of Killingly back in 1989. That area is already been cleared and leveled off, which is this area up against Upper Maple Street. We're almost across from the Killingly Intermediate School driveway, but just a little
Which
south of
side,
that.
like, of the nursery school are you
We're
on
to the south of it. If you're looking at the nursery school,
Yep,
back
so it's
towards
before-
101.
okay.
Yeah, back to 101. So if you're familiar with Upper Maple Street, as you turn onto it from Route 101, there are some striped parking on the side. There's some parallel parking along the road. We're taking place right after that ends, because we don't want to interfere with that. That was put there during the school project for people across the street. I don't think it's used very much, but we met with Dave Capaccione, the town engineer, and we're putting the proposed driveway right at the end of that parking. So that parking, those spaces start here and head to the south. We're going to do a one-way entrance. It's going to be an in only. They're going to exit as they do now, which is through the site and over by the church onto Route 101, which is how they currently do things. There's not much traffic here, as you can imagine. There's about one funeral per month. And then you have your regular visitors who are there doing, visiting the graves. This is existing gravel driveway, and there's existing paved driveway there. We're just going to be extending that through and then proposing a paved apron over at Upper Maple Street. What we have just to the north of us, which is the wetlands, which is why we're in the upland review area, is there is a pond, and it's a small pond. There's an extreme amount of drainage that goes into this pond. As you see, there's a 48-inch RCP that the state of Connecticut put in back in the 1960s, which drains quite a bit of Maple Street. At the time, that was a state project, and they dumped all of the water into this large pipe that you see here. It also picks up some drainage from the intersection of Route 101. So that goes into this pond via that pipe. And just a little bit north onto this same pipe, which you may see on the overall plan I gave you, there's a smaller pipe that was put in when the Killingly Intermediate School was put in. And that just takes a little bit of drainage from the road or the intersection of the driveway right there at Upper Maple Street. Those easements were both granted, and that was in the early 90s that was probably granted, I think, if I remember my dates correctly. The pond is enclosed. It doesn't connect directly to the larger water body, which is the 5 Mile River, which is not too far away. Although when the state did their work in 1962, there is an overflow pipe to this that's just off of our property that they put in at that time. So there is an outlet. This can't back up and flood anything. But if you go down there, there's a lot of debris and stuff that have floated into this in the year that has washed down there. So we did have it delineated by Joe Thoreau. So the dark blue that you see on my colored map here is the actual pond area. And the rest of it, the light blue, those are the flagged wetlands, and they come up the slope just a little bit. This is the existing tree line, and this is existing field, or is the existing area for the future expansion of the cemetery. The only tree clearing that we need to do is actually right out here where the actual paved apron will come in, and there's some scrub there. It's not even any large trees that has to come down. So our proposal is just basically to remove the topsoil, have it taken off-site by a truck, and bring in gravel, and then construct a formal entrance. We did show that there will be a construction entrance, and I think we have some detailed notes as to how things will proceed out there. And we're gonna do one line of silt fence. Even though we're not flowing directly that way, the flow is actually back here. We're just gonna put something there just to protect that wetlands. We are about 90 feet or so away from the wetlands with the edge of the driveway. And that's kind of what we're looking to do, and we're hoping that you'll consider doing an agent approval, but understand if you can't, simply because there is an urgency to get going, and they do want to try to pave that apron this year if they can. But
The
there's,
only thing, I thought, I was looking, I knew he had done one as an agent approval. It's just that there's a lot of drainage coming across there, and I would like Dave to have a chance to review those calcs. Am I the only one thinking that way, or what do you think?
They're not really going to be, they're really not gonna be impacting that drainage.
Okay.
it's not gonna change.
I just wanted your
Because
opinion.
that's not sloping out to Upper Maple, right?
Correct,
That's
yep,
gonna be
it
sloping
slopes back
to the
this way,
side.
correct.
I don't think it's.
So is that a motion then to let it go as an agent approval?
Sure, I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made and seconded to have the staff act as an agent approval for application 21-1536 of St. Joseph's Roman Catholic Church. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, thank you very much.
I'll look to have
All right.
that this week
What's
for you.
that?
I'll look to have that out this week for you.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, and then the other one was, that's the one that you already did. So it's a staff report for the solar panels. Want to just give us the rundown on it?
Yep. So this is new to you guys seeing it. This wasn't on the agenda last month. This is application 21-1535 of Gregory Albright for installation of 45 ground-mounted PV solar panels within 200 feet of the upland review area. This is located at 497 West Scott Road, which is a rural development zone. The application, and did I give you guys a map on that? I can pull up a map.
Where is it on Westcott?
Oh, then just that, okay. I think I have a whole package. You guys-
Where does this fall on Westcott?
Yeah, where is
Yeah, that's what I'm-
497 Westcott?
This is the whole application. It does help locate it for you. So if you were on Westcott and you were heading towards Route 6,
Yep.
it would be on your right-hand side. So it's part of the turns going through there, and I can pull it up and share that with you to show you probably in better context. Just hold on one second.
497, what's any of the numbers to give us a perspective? Is that what you guys are wondering too?
I have no idea where it's, I mean,
It's close. It's close. So I'm gonna bring it up for you guys.
What is that, fronted? Is it before?
It's a small residential lot, so I don't think anyone would really be able to pick it out. But let me share it. Okay. I'm gonna back out here and get a point of reference. Here is where Dexter's used to be, right?
Yep.
Over here, the sports place.
Yep.
So if you're heading, I guess, north towards downtown,
Yeah.
it'd be on your left.
Okay.
Some of them had been Mazzarella area down in that neighborhood.
No, not that far.
Not that
Oh,
far.
I see,
There's a
okay.
water course there, right?
There's a
Yeah,
water
right
course that
behind
runs
it.
through here.
Yeah.
So,
If you
Yeah.
back it out again for a
yep,
minute.
yep, there's a
All right.
little delay. So.
Little far. See, that's the Dexter thing?
Yep.
So
Yeah,
it's,
so
it's
yes.
up that end.
Yep.
Oh,
Right
it's-
after the S curves.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, or are we
Yeah.
from the nursing home?
Before you hit my road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From the nursing home. So this would be pretty far from the nursing home because the nursing home is on the other side of 395.
Yeah.
Isn't
Got
there
it.
a rather colorful home near there?
There's a nice little like
Brightly
log cabiny,
colored?
I think.
Oh,
one.
I know exactly where you're talking about.
Yeah. So the reason for this to come before you is and I'm going to turn on the wonderfully flawed soil geology map to give you an idea of what indicators we have for hydric soil, okay? There is a water course that goes through here. I'm sure it has a name. I don't know it off the top of my head. And that, let me get this out of my way here. Okay. The proposed location, and this is in your packet, I have this, is basically here, from one point to the edge. Like at this point, it's 95 feet. Depends how you measure it, 100 feet. So it's pretty much meeting the metrics. Based off the separations, I would consider this an accessory structure. It's the same way that the zoning looks at it. It's an accessory to residential use. Being so, it'd be a 50-foot separation at a minimum. Would garner, would we be talking about agent approval?
Excuse me.
Yep.
What are the slopes like through
Yep.
there? They're on here, but it's very difficult to see. with
Yep.
the-
And I can, let's see, I'm going to try to make it as
Wait a minute, I might get it on this one.
legible as possible for you guys. So, oops, sorry about that. Let's see if I zoom in, if it picks it up. This is at a higher point than the wetland. The wetland should be lower.
Yeah, my concern is DEEP does not recommend these things be built on slopes greater than 15%.
This wouldn't be 15%
Okay.
on site, no. So at least this line right here, you can see that's 372. And we're up here, we're at in the 390s. So if we were building on this edge,
So you're around
That would be
10%.
15.
Right, yeah, you're around 10%.
Yeah.
it looks like.
right up here, I would say that's at least like a 10%, maybe even a 9.
Yep, okay.
So to give you an idea too, this structure right here is a mobile home that's on the property. So this property is fairly unique because it's a single-family residence with two potential residents. So it's technically 2 single-family residents on one property. I don't know if that trailer is currently being utilized or not, but they would have the right to utilize. They're building it in this field area here, but they have some site constraints based off their application. You'll see that there is septic in this area. So there are some things that are going to be required, and assuming that they meet all of their metrics for the health department, it'd be close. There's pretty much the only spot they could put it if they're going to do ground mount.
From my understanding, this is how many panels?
This
45,
is
I think.
45 panels.
How much of that space does 45 panels?
So I have that right in front of you on that little map.
Oh, the red?
Yep,
the
that red,
okay,
that
all
red
right,
area.
okay, yep, all right.
That was me measuring it off,
Yeah.
off of their submitted specs. So
Okay.
right in front of Sandy is the full
Yeah.
construction.
45 panels
Set.
isn't,
It's not that large.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
I thought, but I wanted to.
Does any clearing have to happen?
They're not, so a lot of these solar companies usually don't propose much clearing, which is kind of surprising because I've seen some even roof mount where they're overhung by trees. I would suggest that you would want to have some sort of clearing, so that way you're getting the maximum amount of sunlight, for the maximum amount of yield. They're pretty
It looks
limited
like all the vegetation
off-site.
is south.
Yep.
And they look like pine trees, so they're probably,
Right.
60, 70 feet high at least.
Yeah.
So
Just
you
trying
should
to
have at least 70 feet cleared.
Yeah, I mean, these images probably don't do any justice because every time at least it was taken, it was in the shade.
Yeah,
Um,
it's hard to
70-foot
tell,
trees
but,
are
and
the-
Yeah.
there isn't anything, I want to say, in the
Yeah.
documentation to.
But I have seen, we've seen applications before where they will propose them with more shade. There's no easements that I'm aware of on the neighboring property in terms of clearing trees.
No shading.
No shading easements, nothing like that. I don't think there's a view easement or anything like that. So the application right now is only for the panels.
So my caution would be approving this without first hearing from the health department.
Yeah,
Because the elevation looks to be roughly the same as what the septic
yep,
would be, and you can get, you can get a concentrated flow off the panels,
yep.
and you could damage the septic.
And if I recall, you're going to be talking to the health department this week anyhow.
I will be talking to the health department this
Doesn't
week.
get any better, does it?
So I would caution.
So- So in the staff report, and it's very similar to the previous staff report because we're usually looking at the same regulations. So, but just generally under the application, if we were to issue an approval, we would be looking conditionally, provided that they provide a copy of the Northeast District Department of Health's approval, because that was my same thought. I mean, these are pole driven. There's not much excavation with it, but you do have runoff. You usually want to see that it's maintained.
Right.
And I don't know the age of that septic system. I don't know any of that stuff.
Right, that would.
So that's
that
just
would
part of your
worry me.
standard review with this anyway?
Yeah, that would be part of
So
my
we don't
standard
even need to
review.
do anything.
I also had providing E&S along the limits of construction on the southern and western property lines and call for inspection by the authorized agent prior to the start of construction.
John,
Because
do you know if that trailer, is that just temporary while they're establishing this land, or is that where
that's
they're going to live?
that I believe is a grandfathered in trailer because we don't allow new trailers unless it is with a building permit, like a temporary one, unless they're already there. So I will tell you right now. We're going to look at it together. The trailer was placed on the site in 1986 was the build year. That, I believe, predates the prohibition on new trailers. I think 89, 88 was the year. That's assuming this one didn't replace one as well.
Okay.
So normally what I would do is I would go to the assessor's archive. They have some records from like the 60s and the 50s and determine it if I was asked to do a zoning compliance letter on it. So as far as I can tell, the mobile home could be utilized as a single-family residence, in addition to the existing house on the property.
Now that I
There
see
is
the
an
roof,
existing
that's what
house
I'm-
on the property?
There's one single-family house. That's what's pictured right now on your screen, and the trailer. But I do not
Deb,
have
now
a
that you
photo
see
of the trailer.
single-family house with the roof, now you know why they're going with them ground-mounted.
Yeah, I don't think roof mount would work.
That's not going to work on that one, so that's why they're going with pole
And
mounted.
at least you can see in the background there the idea of the trees.
Yeah.
Give you an idea of the trees.
Yeah, I actually, this site kind of worries me, because they will have to clear trees. I mean, if they just cut them and don't stump, it wouldn't be the worst thing. But if they cut trees and stump, these panels are gonna create runoff, and now you're on a 10% slope.
Yeah, would that be a condition you think maybe should be added then? If
I think so.
limit tree clearing, any tree clearing should not include stumping.
Yeah.
I'm
without-
really afraid
without
that most of
additional
the tree
application.
clearing wouldn't be on their property anyhow, so
I
don't think.
agree with you. I
Yeah.
don't think most of it
I don't
would
think
be
they
on
really
theirs.
have much of an option.
No.
But they've got no option for roof-mounted panels, when you look at that roof.
Yeah. I do agree with you. I think most of the clearing would have to take
Yeah.
place off their property.
Yeah, it's not theirs to clear.
To me, 45 panels seems a lot.
No, that's what
It-
goes on a
Yeah,
house.
the panels are smaller than some of the older ones that you used to see on like the roof mount. So it doesn't take up a huge footprint. I have it.
Most of them are like, what, 2x4, if even
Yeah,
that now?
it's in the packet. The overall footprint. We're talking about around 50 feet in length for the overall for this by like 18. It's very similar to the size of that trailer.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's what would go on your roof, but they don't have a roof you can
Yeah.
put them on.
Well, I was comparing them to the ones at KIS. Those are big.
Oh, yeah.
No,
Those are
that's
much
not the
bigger.
same
Completely
kind of
different
thing.
animal.
Yeah.
Completely different.
Those are more of a commercial grade.
Yeah.
This is a power your house unit.
Yeah.
Let me ask you. Suppose they seek permission from the adjoining landowner
Yep.
to clear the trees there.
Yep.
Would the adjoining landowner have to come to you to do that?
So we allow cutting of trees within an upland review area. When you start pulling stumps, especially if we're right on the edge and we're not really sure where the soil is, that could be removal of material from a wetland. So we would probably want to work not only with a forester, but with a soil scientist to say, okay, you can cut the trees, but we want to know where the edge of the wetland is. And if you're doing anything over a half an acre, you would need zoning approval anyways. So
Maybe you should make these people aware of that if they need to go off their property.
what I can look to do is put limit tree cutting. Stumping may require, because it might not be universal, there might be a small stump or something, may require additional permitting. Please call prior to any tree work.
Okay.
And we also should have the condition in there that if they do plan to cut trees off-site, that they need to come back to you, period, before any agreement is done.
Okay. So what I'll put is, and let me know if I missed anything. Limit tree cutting. Stumping may require additional permitting. Any inclusive of any off-site cutting.
Yep.
I'm thinking that the tree removal is going to cause more runoff, sloughing of the soil down into the wetlands.
Not
Because
if they
there's
don't
nothing
stump.
holding the
That's-
trees, the roots, they're
Yeah.
holding, I don't know, I
That's
just
why
don't
they
think
can't
it's a
stump.
good idea.
Yeah. No, I think we're in agreement, Deb, but I think if, in theory, if someone were to propose stumping, we would want to see some pretty serious E&S things, measures in place, and maybe even some permanent drainage, just to accommodate, the runoff from, not only from the panels, but just from the new open area, just to
Yeah.
prevent anything. So, but that's not part of the application yet. We're just kind of putting those safeguards. So I think we're pretty good. I don't know if there's anything else you guys would want.
Sounds good, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. So I will look to add those, and just to keep it easy for the minutes and everything, the current thought is to approve with conditions, provide a copy, the conditions being provide a copy of the Northeast District Department of Health approval, install E&S prior to start of construction along limits of construction, southern and western property lines, call for an inspection, Limit tree cutting. Stumping may require additional permitting, inclusive of any off-site tree work.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I think those are good.
Sounds good.
All right, and actually, we don't even need any action on that.
No.
So we're all set
Nope.
there?
Nope.
Anything else?
So there is that amended agenda, which then adds
Yes.
the Alexander's Lake Conservation Rentals LLC, who are looking for a 30 by 36 post and beam addition to the existing barn for general storage. If you've ever been to Alexander's Lake on Upper Maple Street, you probably recognize the barn.
Oh, yeah, just before you get, yeah.
Yep. They've been using that as kind of their maintenance building
Yep.
for forever. They're looking to do this expansion mainly to be able to get some of their trucks and equipment indoors. They've had some issues with vandalism. So there's no water run to the facility. There's no anything. That was one of my questions was, are we looking at like a wash bay? Are we looking at anything like that? Nope. It's just a garage. It is within the 200-foot upland review area. I measured it off the plan. It's about 125 feet, 130 feet. So I do have a
Most of
site
that
plan
stuff is
if you
sitting
guys
on the
want to
side of
see it.
that barn now.
Yeah.
Yeah, most of it's outside right now, and they're just looking
Putting a roof
to,
over it.
yeah, put a roof into it. There is a small lean-to as part of the main structure
Yeah.
that's going to be coming down on the northern side of it, and then this would go on. I do have a site plan if you guys want to see it.
Please.
Yep.
Yeah, it is going where everything's already
Yeah.
piled.
So Deb, I do apologize. I wasn't able to scan this in. We were having issues with our plotter at the end of the day today, but this is something that we received in today. It's not proposing any real change in footprint. It is behind the leading edge of the building, so it meets setbacks for that regard.
Okay.
And they're providing E&S controls at the back limit of construction.
So I have a couple of quick questions.
Sure.
What type of foundation for this?
This is a slab.
It's slab on grade?
Yep.
Um,
It's post and beam construction, but I believe the intention is to do slab on grade.
So why is the silt fence so far away from?
I think they were doing it near the existing tree line just to keep it out of the way.
Okay.
But I don't think the intention was to give space for like over excavation or
That's
anything
what I
like
was
that.
worried about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the surveyor was just putting it towards the edge. I always try to say, like, when we look at the condition limit of construction, I want it on the edge of construction. I don't want it a mile back, you know.
Well, when I see something like that,
Yeah.
I
You
mean,
wonder if they're,
I'm wondering if
Yep.
they're trying to plant something else while they're doing
but
it.
they're the ones that usually don't let any tree get cut anyhow.
Well, yeah.
They are the keeper of the trees.
Yes, I understand that, but when I see stuff like that, I get nervous.
Yep. So this would be in a pretty high.
Bringing it up here into this area behind these trees.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
You already have some, yeah.
Yeah, and that can just be just a general condition, you know, to confirm, you know, location of ENS prior to start of construction.
Yeah, I mean, 'cause they do need room to work, obviously, but when I
But
see
if
it
those
that
trees
far
are staying up
away,
anyhow,
yeah,
you go right there.
yeah, but I don't like seeing stuff like that. It throws up a red flag.
Actually, here, Deb, what I'm going to do real quick for you, just so that way she can see it as well, I'm going to go to that property.
Okay.
So this is, so you can see what he did was he, put that ENS pretty much at the top before the slope changes. This existing lean-to to the north would be demoed as part of this construction, and the new structure would be placed here. As you can see even in this image, they have utilized this area for outdoor parking in the past, staging of equipment. Nothing that we've ever seen to rise to the level, of any kind of concern. But I know this is just, they're trying to keep stuff indoors, not have any issues with the equipment. I think it's a pretty straightforward request.
Whole area's been disturbed before.
Oh, yeah, yep. So this is all part of the same property. This house isn't utilized, at least it wasn't the last time I knew. So to give you an idea of this property, it's quite large. There's a lot of
Wow.
drives. So I believe that they would pretty much be bringing it. What was the dimensions here? 36. It's pretty much right to the edge.
Yeah, which makes sense to be
Access it from the side, the front.
Yeah, 36 is bringing you pretty much right there. That's 36. So,
That makes sense.
yeah, 36 by 30. There you go. So,
Perfect sense right to the driveway.
Yep.
The only thing is I would make sure that
Very close to the road.
ENS,
No, it's no closer than.
the main road is right here, Deb. So, as long as they're behind the leading edge, within that same footprint, it would meet our metrics for setback. This is low density. This portion of Alzad. It's a mixed zone because it's Alzad for the overlay, and it's also low density for the base.
Right, so just have it, yep, it's got it on that, but just add the,
just move
The
that
placement of
erosion
the-
control
Okay.
closer to the actual wooden construction. That'd be my only recommendation.
Okay.
makes sense.
Um,
Then they're not tempted.
Exactly.
Okay, so in the future, right? So with these agent approval ones, I'll definitely try to make sure I have, if that's what you guys want, I can make sure that I can hold off on approvals if you guys want to have the chance to really weigh in on them. It still provides a somewhat expedited process. I just want to be consistent for everyone.
Yeah, it's tough because I'll tell you, that one just took us right off our feet. It's such an odd lot.
Yep.
And it's not a lot that should even be there.
Yeah.
Sandy, I can't hear you.
Oh.
We hear you, Jonathan.
Oh, did you? Oh, you did.
Oh, can you hear me, Sherry?
I can hear Jonathan, and I can hear Deborah.
Okay, yeah. Sandy just turned her mic back on, so she was just saying that that the other lot, one of the previous ones we looked at, was a little bit weird, and that's
Not something we would normally say.
Yep. Now, and obviously, I think that's kind of based into those agent applications. Some of them that we do receive, if they are extremely peculiar, we would be looking to bring them in front of the commission. That goes without saying. One previous agent approval that I have that we've done recently, we did one regular full application for Frito, right, the yellow lot there, and then we did a agent approval for phase 2. So the phase 2 portion that was agent approval was the only thing was repaving of an existing parking lot that was in upland review. They have looked to modify that site plan. It's outside the agent upland review area. It's adding like 20 feet to the building on the southern portion. I know they were looking for updated, like an approval for that. So I will be giving them a letter saying that that's a minor modification of a site plan and it's outside the upland review area, so it doesn't require a further application for you guys. But if things change, which they can, obviously they would come back to you. Similar to like what we saw at Yellen Lot. Yellen was a, quite large thing. I will say, just because we're going through like wetland reports, we have given the approval for that to get transferred over to Frito, that yellow portion of the property. So the old retention basin has been filled in. The new basin is there. It is quite large. They followed all the metrics. The planting is very nice. And on site, we had them actually add additional riprap that would be pretty much, you would have to be engaging a 100-year storm plus to really utilize. But because of its proximity to the river, we wanted to make sure that was being protected. But otherwise, that project has been moving forward. I know it's a larger one, so that's why I thought I'd kind of give you a little brief on that.
Anything else coming shortly?
There's a few. We keep having meetings with a couple different developers that are looking at different types of projects. Many of them will involve wetlands, because as you build out, we kind of mentioned earlier, there's less and less lots of record, what's left. There are more and more properties like that. We're obviously trying to be respectful of the wetlands and conservation properties throughout. So those are, any of those properties when we're approached about, we try to put that right to the forefront. We have a 200-foot upland review area, especially depending on the type of application. We're looking at nearby conservation, saying like, okay, well, what can we link to? What can we get, to make it, good for Killingly, right? But there's nothing major right now. Old Navy's coming. They're currently doing some work in the Commons, but that's nothing for you guys.
Not that it,
Yeah.
not that it has any wetlands implication, but what do you know about that little lot up the street from my house that used to, Peter Mann sold?
Can't hear.
Oh.
That's, has nothing to do with wetlands.
Oh.
Right up the street from my house is that small lot that they're building a house on right now. You know anything about that one?
Fred, forgive me. I don't know exactly where you're at. So.
If you look at Mashantuck and Cook Hill,
Yep.
just going a few hundred yards towards the
290.
south.
Is it 294?
Yeah, I think 294 is it.
Yep. So single family house.
Okay.
That one is it's a small house.
Yeah.
I believe T&B Construction's doing that one. Pretty much not much there. I know we had one question about some traffic concerns on the road there.
Well, he's got huge garages on the ground floor.
Yeah.
It's on a slab. It's like a raised ranch.
Yeah.
Similar to
Yeah, it's a
that.
larger garage, but I think the actual living space area is like 1,000 square feet.
Yeah.
And then the only thing that I've had up there recently was I think we had some construction equipment that was a little congested in the roadway, but that actually wasn't this property, it was from a neighboring property.
Yeah.
So I think that's all been settled, but there wasn't really anything there for wetlands.
No, I'm just curious as to.
Yep,
It's
it's permitted. I know about it.
It's a weird looking
Yeah.
house. The garage, two huge garage doors. It's like
Yeah.
he's going to be putting heavy equipment in there.
Yeah. I mean, the application's for a single family house, so
Yeah.
if it starts to become something different, but we do get some owner operator truckers, so, and we get some car enthusiasts. There's some really nice cars that I've seen in garages around town.
No, well, nobody's going to complain in that
Yeah.
neighborhood.
Yeah.
All right, that it then?
Yep, that's all I have. I don't think we have any town council liaison on.
All in favor of a motion to,
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Just hold on 1 second.
John,
Yes, Deb.
can I speak to you for a minute privately?
Yes, just hold on 1 second. I'm going to stop the Facebook.
Okay.
No. Haven't heard.